I've always been fascinated by time, by the subjectivity of time.
If we can extract one central theme in Christopher Nolan's work, I think that one thing must be time. His fascination with time comes courtesy of three individuals: Escher, Bach, and Borges. These three masters of their different fields had a deep impact on him. Nolan has stated in interviews that studying Escher's etchings frees his mind to think. So I spent 2 months studying Escher and another studying Nolan, and the influence is undeniable. And you won't believe how deep it goes. To understand what Nolan draws from these masters, we must first recognize the greatness of their work. Let's start with Bach's most iconic piece, Fugue in G minor, BWV 578. The subject is introduced at the beginning in one voice, then imitated and repeated. Repeated by a series of voices at different pitches to a maximum of 4, all playing together until it sounds like a completely different piece. This compositional technique is called a fugue. In my opinion, the most intriguing part of a fugue is that every note in the composition is both a part of its own melody and the harmonies underneath. When multiple voices compete against each other, the audience must adjust the position of these voices in their head to understand the full picture. Sound familiar? 1 week on land, 1 day at sea, 1 hour in the sky, a week in a dream, 10 hours in reality. The experience of watching one of Nolan's films is astonishingly similar to how one listens to a fugue. The next one comes from the famous The Musical Offering, BWV 1079. One melody plays forward, another in reverse, counterpointed to form an endless Mobius strip. That's right, this is also the structure of Memento. The black and white sections unfold forwards in time, while the color sections play out backward. When color blends in, the Ouroboros is achieved, and our protagonist falls into a loop of his own creation. If you're still not convinced by these examples, then listen to Bach's Canon per tonos. This influenced and paved the road for the Shepard scale, and the Shepard scale dictated the logic behind the editing of the entire film, Dunkirk.
And so the structure I settled on is one that it's based on a musical structure called the Shepard tone.
Similar to a fugue, the Shepard scale is a sound consisting of a superposition of 3 melodic lines separated by complete octaves. The magic happens when the bass line gradually crescendos or is raised in volume. The alto line remains constant in volume, and the treble line gradually decrescendos or is lowered in volume. This combination of all 3 lines creates a tone that seems to infinitely increase in pitch. Now imagine these 3 melodic lines as sea, land, and air, and the secret behind the continuous tension we feel in Dunkirk reveals itself.
Continually rising in anxiety, if you like, or intensity. And so as one is peaking, the other one is starting to build, and the other one is entering the last phase.
This infinite ascension used by Nolan and Bach was also explored by M.C. Escher with his strange loop phenomenon. An illustration would be the best showcase here. If we follow the steps down the path, where is the apex in this picture? Or if we follow the canal downstream, where is the bottom? In a certain sense, I believe these strange loops embody almost the entirety of Nolan's cinematic language. These strange loops imply infinite philosophies. They could be reversal, recursion, self-referential,
This is obviously an idea that Robert himself would choose to reject.
symmetry, And Nolan's favorite, ending
Are you
callbacks.
watching closely?
You're not really looking.
What's more impressive is that Nolan's skill in creating such strange loops does more than create interesting narratives. The complex structures he constructs deliver a more immersive storytelling experience. Perhaps one of the most extreme and introspective examples of this can be seen in The Prestige. The two magicians in the film resemble one of Escher's etchings. Though mutually exclusive, they are mirror images of each other. They steal each other's tricks, diaries, and even lovers. Yet they are trapped by the same obsession. You could say that the entire movie is an intertwined and ascending progress of delicate contrapuntal opposition. If Nolan's study of Escher truly has imbued him with some sort of creative blessing, then I would argue The Prestige is the best example of what he's learned. Now let's return to the strange loop. The key to the strange loops lies in the intersections of their multiple colliding paths. It is these intersections that grant another dimension to the flat images, forming a perfect space-time illusion. What is the equivalent in Nolan's films of these intersections? One of Nolan's great strengths is his deep understanding that time is not only a visual, but also an audible stimulus. To be specific, time sounds like this. So how does Nolan manipulate sound? In Inception, time passes more slowly as characters enter deeper layers of dreams. So when Nolan connects three worlds with a single soundtrack, we hear that the speed of the music gradually decreases.
It's too soon.
Cop, do you hear that?
The opposite happens in Interstellar. Time on Miller's planet passes much more quickly than on Earth. To stress that tension, when Cooper lands on this planet, we can hear a ticking sound playing in the background.
Go, 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 go. 7 years per hour here. Let's make it count.
This ticking plays at 48 beats per minute, and if you do the math, this exactly equates to the passage of time on Earth. Meaning, for every tick, 1 day passes on Earth. And that's not all. When the tension starts to peak as the huge wave approaches, we can hear that composer Hans Zimmer subtly changes the tempo for this part of the soundtrack. In Dunkirk, the ticking of a pocket watch can be heard throughout most of the entire film, combined with a heartbeat, the sound of torpedoes, and the rhythm of gunfire, only to end abruptly when a soldier falls asleep.
That old bloke wouldn't even look us in the eye.
This is how Nolan covertly plants time into our subconscious. It's the inflection point of Escher's Penrose Triangle. It's the secret behind Bach's counterpoint melodies. It's what connects time and space in these cinematic worlds, a perfect docking between the two. Finally, let's discuss the thematic usage of time in Nolan's work, or more precisely, the correlation between time and memory. In Nolan's films, time is always relative, but no matter how time changes, there's always one rule that remains unbroken: the past cannot be changed.
Time is relative, okay? It can stretch and it can squeeze, but it can't run backwards.
The moment's past. Whatever I do, I can't change this moment.
It's precisely because of this rule, characters end up trapped, twisted by their memories and the unstoppable march of time in prisons they have built for themselves. It seems that in Nolan's films, time is always the biggest enemy. Is this all we can understand about time? Well, it's time to introduce the third master who influenced Nolan, Argentine poet and writer Jorge Luis Borges. If you're unfamiliar with his works, I strongly recommend them. Many of his pieces are devoted to timeless subjects with elaborate compositions, such as infinity and cycles, or memories and forgetting. His collection of short stories, Ficciones, features one such story, which Nolan claims to be the inspiration behind Memento's mirroring structure. In the story, a young man named Funes acquires an astonishing memory due to a horse-riding accident. All that Funes has seen, heard, or read stays with him forever. Not only that, Funes possesses an extraordinary sense of perception. Where we might see a horse in the distance, Funes can sense the horse's flying mane, its powerful leg muscles springing, and the ever-changing flames and ashes behind it. However, Funes is unable to understand the concept of horses. For concepts are a distillation of commonalities. They're generalizations, abstractions. In Funes's dazzling world, there's only an abundance of detail and insufferably precise time. Thus, until death, he fails to recollect his once happy childhood or feel the meaning behind the passage of time. Eventually, he suffocates under this unbearable weight. Though Borges presents a character who remembers everything, and Nolan's can't form memories at all, these two characters share a common theme: the duality between time and memory. On one hand, time is our greatest enemy. On the other, we rely on it to be able to reshape our memories. It is time that grants us the ability to forget, and it's forgetting that shapes what we perceive as memories, and allows the past to assume new meaning in the present. In my opinion, this captures the emotional logic in all of Nolan's films. For example, in Memento, what has disturbed the protagonist the most may not be his inability to remember events as a whole, but being unable to perceive continuity of time. Thus, he's incapable of truly forgetting. In Insomnia, Al Pacino's character lost his perception of time due to white nights and falls into insomnia and insanity. In Inception, the protagonist falls into the fringes of consciousness and is lost in endless time until he comes to terms with the death of his wife and allows her to die in his memory. Similarly, but going a step further, in Interstellar, it is within the hypercube space, powered by Murphy's love for copper, that the message can be transferred from 5 to 3 dimensions, completing the docking between the past, present, and future. Here, Nolan utilizes memory like gravity, allowing love to transcend the boundaries of time and space.
Do not go gentle into that good night.
Some may have found this to be overly sentimental, and at first glance, the cynic in me would have agreed. This solution may seem simple and crude when pitted against the infinite expanse of the universe. But to that, I would say, when presented with the scientifically mysterious subject of time, Nolan's romantic approach itself represents formidable faith and courage. If everything will eventually be ground to dust and all that we have done, all that we will ever love, will someday be 6 feet under, then how do we find our place in the endless vastness of space and time? Interstellar tells us that love is not the answer to every problem we have. Love is a guiding force that transcends time for our sake. In some sense, is it not through cinema, literature, and art that documents nature that we fight against time and digest our memories? Or maybe if the answers to these ultimate questions about time and memory cannot be found in art, it may at least provide a means to seek them. Perhaps this is why we love movies so much.
We want it to feel relatable, we want to feel tactile, because ultimately the film is about human beings, what binds us together, what divides us, these kind of things. But that setting of deep, deep space, between the stars, between galaxies, it gives you a very, very fresh approach to be able to look at those issues.
Thank you for watching. We are G-Cores, a gaming community that's also interested in movies. There's no judgment here, only love. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and we have many more exciting videos on the way, so we look forward to seeing you next time.